when you think about it, your intuitive sense, which is the sense of your spirit, is extremely accurate. You can't alter it. It doesn't alter things. It shows you everything as it really is. Now, for many of us, it often happens that what we receive from our intuitive sense is not what we would like to see or hear, and it is uncomfortable. So we choose to ignore it, cover it up, and it is very easy for us as human beings living in a material world to use our brains more often than we use our intuitive sense. And over time, we blanket the intuitive sense with the physical senses. And when that happens, the intuitive sense, it is still being illuminated by the flood of light. Don't forget that. Yet, we are so busy focusing on our physical senses and our brain function, and all our thoughts are being generated by the brain and the physical senses, that the intuitive sense is not being permitted to have a role in determining the accuracy of the thoughts that we're generating. So, how can we change that? If we want to manifest truth in our lives, then the first step is we have to use the sense that is guaranteed to be truth. And when we talk about manifesting truth, we often think this is about expressing truth. But no, it isn't about expressing truth. It's about perceiving the truth, seeing, receiving, understanding, accepting truthfully. First, you have to first see things truthfully as they really are. Then you can produce thoughts truthfully. But to see things as they really are truthfully, you have to stand under the floodlight of the power of the universe that permits you to create thoughts under this power. And if you think, okay, I'm creating these thoughts, you have to be able to look inside and see if these thoughts that you're producing are completely in alignment with the creative power that allows you to produce the thought in the first place. In other words, you need to look and see if thoughts that you're producing are in alignment with the creative power. Another way you could say it is in alignment with the power of the creator. And another way you could say it is whether these thoughts are in alignment with the power of God, because the creator and the power and the light are one and the same thing. And the light is truth, and truth is the light. You can't separate them. We've lived in a world where we've learned to compartmentalize everything. Even our religions have led us to compartmentalize. God is some guy up there, in the sky pulling strings. And we are here, we do whatever we do, we think whatever we think thoughtlessly. We don't really examine it. And then when the result or effect comes, we wonder why or how it happened, because we haven't paid any attention to the universe of the Creator and the laws that actually guide it, control it, and continue to support it for eternity.
Could I ask a question?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I am hearing what you're saying, and I, at one level, want to do those things, be that way, think that way. And on a practical level, I compromise all the time, all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What do I'm afraid to do it differently. I wouldn't have any friends. I wouldn't talk to my relatives very often.
Well, you say you wouldn't have any friends and you wouldn't talk to your relatives very often. Well, first of all, your friends would change. Doesn't mean you wouldn't have any friends. You just wouldn't have the same old friends. You would have to have different friends, because you would find yourself being drawn to other people who are also trying to attain to this truthfulness in interaction and community. As far as relatives are concerned, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. But remember what I just said, that one of the things that we realize once we start looking at ourselves and at our lives in the light of the truth, is that we begin to realize that all the things that we find amiss in people around us, we also carry within ourselves. And every time you come across something that really bothers you, accept that it bothers you, but look inside yourself and see how that same thing that's bothering you actually exists in you, and make the effort to work on it in yourself. Or yes, granted, acknowledging that, yeah, it's in these other people, but you're not going to change them. And the first step is being aware. You are here for a purpose. And the purpose is that you are here to grow into a better, purer, and true human being. That's the only purpose for being alive. I mean, we have jobs, we make more money, we want to have children, we want to have grandchildren, we want to do all those things. But all those things are there only for one purpose, which is for you, for me, to become a better human being, to become a true human being, a real human being. And, that expression, human being, is so important an expression that we should not substitute expressions like, man or people, or any of mankind and that kind of. We are human beings. We are beings. And as beings, we exist and function and generate. We generate thoughts, words, deeds, which we put into the universe. And depending on what we put into the universe gives us back exactly what we put into it. So if what you put into the universe is untruth, what you get back is untruth. Think about it carefully. We could say things like, well, there's little untruths and there are big untruths, and we get incensed, when our leaders, priests, pastors, presidents and governors are shown, to have engaged in huge untruths. But we don't realize that all those huge untruths are really an accumulation or culmination of small untruths. And in the light, there's no even tiny grain of untruth that will not come to light, because the light is shed on everything. And when we say in our language, we shed light on something, what does that mean? It means you make it become visibly and truthfully manifest exactly the way it is when you shed light on something. So think to yourself that the light is being shed on you all the time, all the time. Not 23 hours of the day, not 6 days a week, not on Sundays, not on, the Sabbath. It's being shed on you all the time, 24/7. Whether you acknowledge it or not is your affair. But the sooner you acknowledge it and start living according to it, the sooner the complications in your life begin to unravel and resolve. That's the way I would put it. Okay. How can we best do this? First, to understand that the light and the truth, I'm going to say the light and the truth is, not are, but is impartial, unchanging, eternal. And because of that, there is only one truth. There can be only one truth, which is the way something is the way it is. And once you realize that, then you realize that there is no such thing as my truth and your truth. There is no such thing. There is such a thing as my delusion and your delusion. There can be such a thing as my partial understanding of it and your partial understanding of it. But there's no such thing as my truth and your truth, because the truth is only that which the light, the primordial light of the universe, shows when it shines on you or on any situation. And when we start looking at things and thinking about things and interacting based on that, there'll be a lot less disagreements, confusion, quarrels, and so on. But that may apply to the society at large, but in your own life, to bring about simplicity and clarity in your life, it makes sense to start thinking in that. So I'm going to just add one more thing and then I'll stop. When you have a thought, how do you know whether this thought is coming from your spirit or from your brain?
I think it takes some discernment to sometimes tell the difference between those two.
Lots of times we talk about, a person is thinking from his head or a person is thinking from his heart. It's very easy to, you have to begin to learn to differentiate whether this thing is coming from your head or if it's coming from your heart. When you use your heart, you're thinking from a very deep place in you. When you use your head, you're thinking in a calculating way. You're calculating all the pros and cons with the ultimate aim of achieving some kind of advantage for yourself. I don't want to lose my friends, so I'm going to do this, that. That's thinking from your head. I'm not getting along very well with this friend. there has to be something between us that is not harmonious. Well, then I will spend less time with this friend. I'm angry. What am I going to do about it? Well, I'm going to think, well, this friend is probably suffering as much as I'm suffering from my anger. That's thinking from your heart. So we have to learn to kind of decipher when we're thinking from our heart and when we're thinking from our head. Your spirit works through your intuition, your intuitive sense. Your intuitive sense comes from this place in your body, this place in your body. And that place is where the thoughts that are in alignment with the power of the light can be generated. It is not possible for your brain to generate a thought. Your spirit generates and your brain alters it. So when you say something is coming from your head, it's that your head or your brain has altered it on its way out. It started out in your intuitive sense, but it goes through this path through your brain, and your brain interferes with all these arguments. And in time, many people are no longer able to even use their intuitive sense accurately. So this, for us, is the main challenge: to live in truth. We have to receive truthfully, and you cannot do that unless you are using your intuition or your intuitive sense. And we have to express truthfully. And again, we cannot do that unless we're using our intuitive sense and permitting the intuitive sense to do its work without being obstructed by our brain, our mind, our mental cogitations. You know what that means? Mental cogitation. You something comes up, and then you start sort of thinking it and dissecting it, and before you know it, it's being turned into the same old, what makes you feel comfortable. So we have to start by being very clear and truthful with ourselves.
Dr. Kenzie, excuse me, can you remind me how I would pray or ask for help to do this in the moment that I'm thinking about something and I can't seem to figure out which is and the intuitive thought and what's the manipulated, cogitated thought? Do you say to God, or do you just say do I talk to myself? How do I talk myself back to that good place?
Well, again, maybe it's the fact that your idea of a good place is what you need to kind of re-examine. I think that if you can just start out by asking yourself, is this coming from my gut or is it coming from my head? Just use that, okay? And you can ask, I mean, if you pray, then pray to learn when something is coming from your gut and when it's coming from your head. You know, we use the expression from the gut, we use the expression from the heart. The reason is because your solar plexus is right in that in between junction between your gut and your heart. So you start to pay attention to yourself. Where's this coming from? But beyond paying attention to yourself, just think, I'm standing under the floodlight of the Creator. And the floodlight of the Creator is truth. Everything that I am thinking right now, how does it stand? How does it feel under the floodlight of the Creator? That answers your, that will very quickly answer your question as to what you're thinking and, you know, whether it's in your best interest or not. If you can leave this meeting with just that one idea that, okay, from this moment on, everything I will judge it based on the conviction that at this moment, I am standing under the floodlight of the Creator. And every moment, you're standing under that floodlight. Use that. You know, like I said at the beginning, all these are insights that I have arrived at gradually over the years from reading this book called In the Light of Truth. And some of you who have attended these workshops before know about this book, and some of you are actually reading the book, and some of you have already read it to the end. It's a book that you really never ever finish reading, okay? And this book, you know, it's called In the Light of Truth. This is the book. It's a book of spiritual knowledge, yes, but it's also a book of practical knowledge. And it is a book that once you start reading it, it's as if scales fell from your eyes and you start to see life as it really is. But not only do you start to see life as it really is, you begin to understand what your religious tradition was trying to teach you all along, which over, you know, millennia, over thousands of years, we've taken those simple messages and turned them into organized religions that are very far removed from the actual truth in the universe, actually far removed from the reality of the Creator and of the universe of the Creator.